All right, so good morning, good afternoon, or even good evening, again, depending on what time you're listening to this recording. Welcome to part two of the demand function, where we'll be talking about the law of demand. And from the previous video, we have used milk as an example to illustrate concepts in demand. And we'll be using milk throughout this entire module to illustrate, several things about demand. So the background that we have today is that of Coperia, which can be found in Havana, Cuba. So this is a huge ice cream store and that was built by Fidel Castro. And if you don't know, Fidel Castro was a revolutionary dictator in Cuba. The CIA tried to assassinate him several times. There's a lot of stories about that. But one of the biggest stories about Fidel Castro was that he loved milk. And this is Medium article. You can have a go and read at it. It's a free article and it's available online. So he really loved his dairy. There's a lot of stories about him, and basically he just loved milk and all the ice cream and all the dairy products with it, like ice cream. And so Copelia is one of the an ice cream store, huge one that he built. All right, and basically that's just why we have this as a background today, because we were talking about milk and it just seemed appropriate to include a random story about a Cuban dictator who built a huge ice cream store in the middle of the capital. So that's why we have this background today. All right, let's get going then. So let's just have a recap of the things that we discussed in the previous video. So I want to remind you about the demand function. So what determines the demand of a product? So we use milk as an example once again, right? And we said that the quantity of milk depends on several factors. So the first one, the most obvious one, is the price of milk, right? And the second one and other ones include the income of family members, or the price of related goods, taste and preferences, number of people in the family, advertising expectations. So these all determine how much milk a family will buy. Now let's have a look at this in function form. Again, in panic. This is again the function here just means depends, right? So that just means depends, right? So today we will focus on the effect of quantity demanded as we change the price. Once again, just like in the production module, we will be dealing with this through ceteris paribus, meaning we'll be changing price, but we'll keep everything else constant. So what happens when we change the price? What happens to the quantity of milk demanded? Okay, so that's what we will be doing today. So once again, we're going to use cow's milk as a case study to show you what happens when we change prices, what happens to demand. And once again, I want to just be specific that we're using cow's milk because there are other types of milk like almond milk, soy milk, and all of that. So we'll be focusing today on cow's milk. And the question we want to ask is, what happens when we change the price of milk? Okay, and we'll be using a fictional example. However, these are some of my friends, so sorry about that. So let me introduce to you Ellie. And Ellie does love milk, and the price of milk right now is 2 units of money. I don't know, pesos, dollars, whatever, pounds, whatever. Let's just say two monies, okay? Just so we're not that specific. So okay, anyways, so the price of milk is 2 monies. Now, Ellie's budget, she has 6 monies available to her. So that means if milk was the only good available, and Ellie does love milk, so that means Ellie can buy three milk, right? 3 bottles of milk. Again, two monies each, so that she's got 6. So 6 divided by 2, you get 3 milk. Now, what happens when the price of milk increases from 2 to 3? What happens then? Well, Ellie can't buy 3 glasses of milk anymore because she wouldn't have the budget for that. She had to buy 1 less, right? Because 6 divided by 3 would give you 2. So now she could only buy 2 bottles of milk. So that means when the price of milk went up, Ellie could buy less. Similarly, if we decrease the price of milk, let's say it's now equal to 1 money, now Ellie can buy 6 bottles of milk. Now she's got more. Her budget stays the same, but because the price of milk has gone down, she can buy more milk with whatever money she has. And this is what we call the income effect, right? As the price goes, when a price changes, if a price increases, you're in, and you have the same level of income. Again, we're taking things ceteris paribus, one thing at a time. You've got the same amount of money with you. That means but if the price of milk increases, that means you can buy less. But if the price of milk decreases, that means you can buy more, and you probably will buy more, or something like that. So that's one effect. So that's called the income effect. Let's have another case. Now let's say Ellie, again, there's another case. So we've got milk. But there's also another product in the market, which is juice. And juice costs 3 money. Okay, so milk costs 2 money and juice costs 3 money. Now, Ellie does like juice as much as she likes milk, but because milk is cheaper, and again, Ellie has the same budget, because milk is cheaper, she's probably going to buy 3 glasses of milk, right? Because you could buy more stuff with that, because milk is cheaper. I hope that makes sense. However, if we say we increase the price of milk, things could happen. Okay, and Ellie needs to use up all her budget for that shop. She could either buy 2 glasses of milk. Again, you can't afford 3 anymore. She only has 6 monies, and 6 monies, and then one bottle of milk is 3 monies, so she can only buy 2 bottles of milk. Now, that's one thing she could do. Another thing she could do, though, is because there's an alternative product, and now they cost about the same. Instead of buying 2 bottles of milk, sorry if I use glasses and bottles interchangeably. Instead of buying 2 bottles of milk, she could buy 1 bottle of milk and one bottle of juice. Now they're the same, and she can afford them. And because the price of milk increased, what happened is other goods that can substitute for milk become a bit more attractive. Because now, for example, in this example, the price of milk and the price of juice is similar. So this is what we call the substitution effect. Other substitutes, when the price of milk increases, other substitutes seem to look cheaper in comparison, or not necessarily cheaper, but other good, like the opportunity cost of buying another good seems less, because now milk itself is more expensive, and so a substitute to that might just be in your alley. I hope that's clear. All right. Now let's expand this a bit further. So the previous example that we had just one person. Now imagine again, microeconomics deals not just with one person or one household. It deals with entire markets, right? As long as we're still talking about one good. So let's introduce extra characters. We've got Sarah and Michael, and again, they're real people. And if Ellie, Sarah, and Michael, and if you're listening to this, love you all. Thank you for allowing me to use you guys as an example. Now, Ellie, Sarah, and Michael all have different preferences for milk. Okay, so Ellie really, really loves milk. Sarah, not that much. And Michael, one heart. Maybe he just uses milk for baking and all of that or whatever. But he doesn't actually really drink milk on its own. Now let's have a look. The price of milk is still 2 monies, and let's see how much milk that they buy. Okay, so 2 monies, they will buy 3 milk. Sarah will buy 2, and Michael, he won't really buy any because he's not that fond of milk. He's alright with it, but at the current levels, he just doesn't really seem to have a need for milk, you know. So the total amount of milk we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 milk will be bought by between Ellie, Michael, and Sarah. Now, let's say we increase the price of milk. Now, instead of 2 monies, milk is now 3 monies. And once again, Ellie, with her limited budget, can only buy 2. Sarah, this time, she's like, nah, it's a bit too expensive for me. I'm not going to buy any milk. And Michael, he's already not bought milk at 2 monies, so he's probably not going to buy it at 3. Okay. So now what happens is, if we count we got 1, 2. So only 2 bottles of milk will be bought. Again, the price increased, and now we've got less milk being bought. Now let's try decreasing the price and see what happens. If we decrease the price of milk to 1 money, Ellie can buy 6, as we've seen before. Sarah can now buy a bit more than 2. She could buy maybe 3. And Michael thinking, well, you know what? I can do something with this milk. Maybe I could use it in one of my baking stuff, and so maybe I'll buy 2 bottles. As you can see now, the quantity of milk that is bought increases. So there's 2 ways to look at what happens to the quantity demanded of milk when we change the price. So in the first example that we had, the previous slide, we saw what happens to one person, or you can think of it as one family, right? And you can see the income and substitution effects, that as we increase the price of milk, there will be a decrease in the quantity demanded. And inversely, if we decrease the price of milk, there will be an increase in the amount demanded. And now what we have here in this particular slide is what happens to when you've got multiple people, when you've got a market, okay? So you can extend Ellie, Sarah, Michael, you extend them to hundreds of people, okay? And you can see that what happens is, as we increase the price of milk, some people will just not buy milk, right? And if we decrease the price of milk, there will be some people entering the market and actually saying, you know what, I can buy milk, okay? So what happens is, on the singular scale, and if it's just a family, maybe they'll buy more or less. On the market scale, we could also think of it as, when we decrease the price of milk, more people want to buy it. If we increase the price of milk, some people who would have bought milk will just not buy it. So that's what it is. Right? So let's have a look at this again. So we got the price of milk is 2 monies. Ellie buys 3, right? Let's just an example. This is the quantity demanded. Now, when we increase the price, we decrease the quantity demanded. And if we decrease the price, we increase the quantity demanded. So we've seen that in both examples, both with Ellie on her own and with her friends Sarah and Michael. And this is what we call the law of demand. Basically, what this means is that there is an inverse relationship, again, all things being equal, or other things being equal, between price and quantity demanded. If we increase price, decrease quantity demanded. We decrease price, we increase quantity demanded. I hope that's pretty straightforward. So again, notesy bits. So if you want to fill up your notes, feel free. So the law of demand, again, there is an inverse relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded. As the price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. And we saw 2 reasons why the law of demand works that way. First of all, again, is the income effect. And this is going back to just Ellie. When the price of a good increases, one's income will seem smaller. And the other one is the substitution effect, where when the price of a good increases, other goods that can substitute it will look cheaper in comparison. I hope that's clear enough. Right, so the question now is, how do we represent the law of demand? And once again, you've got to remember, demand is just the law of demand is just coming off from the demand function. And in mathematics, and this is general for mathematics and the sciences, when it comes to functions, we usually have 3 ways that we could represent them. Okay, and the first method is to literally list down a table. If I got the price here, the quantity demanded will be this, okay? So this is the tabular form of it, and that's what we call demand schedule. Another way that we could do it is we could do it graphically through a graph, right? Through a curve, and we call that the demand curve, where basically you have one axis, one quantity price on one axis, and quantity demanded on the other. And I know that doesn't look like a curve, that's a straight line, but in maths, when we say curve, that just means any graph. And the last one is we can use an algebraic equation, and this is what you usually get in maths. However, once again, we want to focus on the concepts of economics in this year. So, panic, we won't be dealing with algebraic equations, okay? So we'll only be dealing with 2 things. We'll be dealing with the tabular form, in table form, the demand schedule, and we'll be dealing with the graphical form, also known as the demand curve. And just to summarize that again, demand schedule table, demand curve, graph. And helpful tip again, this is similar to the rest of mathematics, sciences, etc. And so usually it's your bread and butter. When you've got a function, you could represent this as either in a table or in a graph or as an equation. But once again, the purpose of this course that you're taking, the purpose of this subject in economics, is for you to grasp the concepts behind it. So I don't want to bog you down with the mathematics. What's more important right now is for your understanding of the concepts. Okay, so that's why we won't be doing equations once again, and you can, at least be rest assured that you won't be doing that for this year. Okay, right. So let's go back to our case study. So usually, one important thing that we do is convert from a demand schedule, a table form, to a demand curve. All right? So let's have an example. So we got the list of prices here. So again, we'll just use arbitrary units. Let's just say money is not exactly a currency, but again, it's just a concept what we need, right? And the quantity demanded. And again, of demand right here. We increase the price. What happens to the quantity demanded? It decreases. Okay? Now, here's just a warning. Usually, if for the more mathematical view, and this will really bug you, because it does bug me, unfortunately, it is what it is. Again, if you remember a demand function, quantity demanded is a function of price, blah, 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 blah. So you'd expect quantity demanded to be in the y-axis, right? For the more mathematical of you guys, that's just how we do things, right? What we call the dependent variable should be in the y-axis. Unfortunately, the guy who first introduced the demand function did it the other way around. So the quantity demanded is on the x-axis, while the price is on the y-axis. I know it's really bothers me, but that's how things are, and that's just the way we have to do it, unfortunately. Okay, I personally do not agree to this, but this is the standard thing, and this is basically what you get everywhere, so we kind of just have to swallow it and just do it. So the first thing we usually do, we just reverse the order. Okay, so the x-axis is quantity demanded, and price is the y-axis. So we do quantity demanded usually there, and then price on the y-axis. Y-axis, yeah. So quantity demanded, then the price. Okay. All right. This is very similar to the production function, production module that we did a couple of weeks back. So x-axis, quantity demanded. We'll do that first. So on the x-axis, we've got quantity demanded, and on the y-axis, we've got price. So let's draw that in. Okay, so let's do this one by one. Okay, so let's have a look here. The first entry. And again, we read entries like this. Every row is one entry. So quantity demanded is 850. So if you look at your graph, quantity demanded 850 would be around here, and the price would be 1. So 1 would be there. So if we draw an intersection to that, we get this. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. Let's move on to the second entry. Quantity demanded is 600, so somewhere there, and the price is 2, so somewhere there. Look at the intersection of that, and we get. Moving on, again, 400, and then 3. So we look at the intersection of that, we get that point. Next one, 250, 250 somewhere there, and then 4 is there, so we get that. And then moving on, 150, and 5, so we get that. And then next we got 100, and then 6, so we get this thing over there. And finally, we got 50 and 7, so that would give us that. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. So that's how we convert from a demand schedule to a demand curve. All right, I hope that's clear enough. Now, we can draw a line through that. We can try connecting those points just so we have a curve, basically, right? Again, so we actually have a proper curve this time. Now, the law of demand shows us that the trend is decreasing. Okay, so as you can see here, as we increase the price, the quantity demanded goes down, right? So, as we increase the price, so from here to here, that's increasing the price going up. The quantity demanded goes down. Or one way to look at it, as we increase the quantity demanded, if you want more people to buy milk, you kind of have to decrease the price. So the trend should be decreasing, okay, in that direction. However, this is just an example. Again, the numbers that I chose were arbitrary. Usually it was just to make this nice looking curve. The law of demand tells us the trend, how it goes from left to right. It's going down. However, it does not tell us its shape. So the demand curve could look something like this on the red line here, or it could look like a straight line, like the blue line here. Okay, so the law of demand doesn't tell us the shape, it just tells us the trend. Okay, I hope that's clear. Any of these shapes are completely valid, and one of the things that economists do is to determine exactly what the demand curve looks like, and that's actually a huge area, especially when you go to like businesses or like and research and all of that. We actually have to think about, okay, what does the demand curve look like? How sensitive are we to prices? And we'll be talking a bit about that when we get to elasticity in a few weeks' time. But for now, just remember, law of demand is decreasing, but it doesn't really tell us exactly how it's decreasing. And for now, future analysis, basically, from here on out, we'll just be using a linear function, i.e. a straight line. So yeah, a straight line. Okay, why? Because basically it's easier. Honestly, it's just easier to just use a straight line. And again, it comes back to this concept. The point of this module right now, the point of this economics subject that you're taking, is for you to grasp the basic concept of economics. So if we can make things as easy as possible without sacrificing the concept, we're going to do that. And a linear function is pretty much the easiest way that you can represent demand. So just again, the demand curve could be any shape as long as it's decreasing. It doesn't have to be linear, but from here on out, we'll just use a linear one because it's easier. All right, so that ends what we have for this video. And so next time, we'll be looking at the effects of other factors. So we've done price today. Now, what happens with the other factors? What happens to the quantity demand, the amount of milk demanded? Okay, so thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next video. And here's just some image credits about what I've gotten and all of that. Thank you.